All right. Good morning, everybody. All right, so we've got a little under an hour, right? Lori, this ends at 9 o'clock. So I'm originally from New York, so my New York will probably come out a little bit in terms of speed. I have to, since it's being recorded, I can't use some of my New York words though, Lori, right? All right, does everybody see the screen okay? If somebody doesn't see the screen, just please put something in the chat box. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about, really sales growth. Quick introduction for myself. Been in business for 35 years. 15 years ago, I woke up one morning and said, I don't want to work for a big company anymore, and decided to start my own consulting and coaching firm. So Nick, sounds like you've been doing it for a short period of time. I've spent the last 15 years building up a coaching and consulting practice. So be more than happy to jump on another call with you at some point and share what worked and all the mistakes I made.
Absolutely would be interested.
Yeah. So what I kind of did was many years ago, as I was out building my business, I sat down and I said, what works, what doesn't work. And as a result of that, I built my own little methodology. So what we're going to go through today is what I call the client acquisition process. And during the presentation, the goal here is just going to share some ideas, share some best practices. And the ultimate goal from this workshop, I do this for the SBDC. I teach this class, and it's like a 6-hour class. At the end of the 6 hours, everybody walks away with a sales plan. So we're not going to have time today to go into that depth, but I want to give you some nuggets of information so that you guys can start to architect a sales plan that works for you. My whole background is in the technology professional services arena. So based on the introduction from you folks, the industries that you're in are industries that I've been in for a long time. So this is an area that I'm definitely comfortable in. So usually when I do the workshop, it's highly interactive. So I always like to start with, what are some of the, challenges that you're facing? So real quickly, just for me, so I can cater this presentation to be effective. So Steve, number one challenge in finding new customers for you?
I would say getting in front of specific people that are in the right titles of the right kind of companies. I've mined LinkedIn. I've done the, hey, how you doing? Let's connect thing. And I've also done the more direct, these are the problems we solve. Let's get together and talk routine. And so it's getting in front of the right people.
Okay, perfect. Nick, for you?
I would say it's not so much the right people for me, but a higher volume, right? So instead of one new lead a week, why not 5? How do I scale the lead flow and make time, right? Because it's in a little bit inconsistent. I have weeks where lots of brand new people coming in, invoices going out, and then I got to execute, which takes away from finding the new ones, right? So you get the ups and downs.
Yep. So coming up with a more consistency and quantity.
Yeah, right.
Got it.
Gary, do you want to go to full screen on your presentation? Would that be?
Is it? Oh, it's not in full screen now?
No. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Let me see. Is that better?
No, it was a second ago.
That's weird. That you can see?
There you go.
Yeah, but we're not looking at the right screen at the moment.
Oh, right. We're looking at your calendar, I think.
So if you move the...
Let me reshare it.
Okay. Sorry. There you go.
And this should go. Do you see full screen now?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. Thank you for that. Catherine, anything you could share relative to your number one challenge with getting customers?
Sure. I think absolutely. It's how do you get beyond our initial customers have all come from our core network. So how do we build business beyond that? The people that know us well.
Okay. And I see Marie responded, higher volume, finding the right targets for business assessment workshop. Okay, so Very, very common answers. So when you guys think about your business, from a self-assessment perspective, these are the components of a successful sales strategy, right? So number one, target market. How well do you know your ideal customer? A lot of companies are shooting very wide. They're saying, I'm going after everybody and anybody, which basically tells me that you can't help anybody, right? So you know, in today's marketplace, you have to go more micro, you have to go more target. So on a scale of 1 to 5, you know, 5 being the highest, how well do you know your target market? You know, do you have a focus on an individual industry? The second is, once you know who your customers are, do you know where to find them? The third is, do you have an understanding of what your customers' challenges are? So like in the case for you, Nick, you know, you mentioned that you do executive coaching for people in the financial industry. You know, do you really have a good understanding of the challenges and issues and goals of that target market? And if you do, then we've got to work on getting that message out in front of more of the right people.
That's exactly right.
Yep. The fourth area is, once you get in front of your target market, do you know what to say, right? The pitch. And a lot of companies do a great job of getting in front of their target market, but they don't have a good pitch. Some companies have a great pitch, but they don't get in front of their target market. So we want to make sure that we have a great pitch. Do you have a plan? You know, is there actually a documented written sales plan for your company? 95% of my clients that I work with have no sales plan. They have ideas. They could talk about things, but there's not an actual plan. And then the last one is, are you filling up your calendar with activities that you need to do to grow your business? So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to go into these topics in detail. When I do my workshops, we kind of go through the scoring, and it's always fun to see where people are. High score is 30. Most people are somewhere between 15 and 20. So no shame in not being perfect. The goal here is to get better. So this might be a little bit hard to read, but this is the methodology that I created 5 years ago. And this presentation today is to basically walk us through the methodology. So since we don't have a lot of time, I'm going to kind of jump right into it. So the first step is always, you know, what's the purpose of your business? Like, why are you in this business? You know, not to pick on you, Nick, but just why did you choose to do executive coaching for the financial services industry? So regardless of what your business is, you know, do you guys wake up every day really aligned to your passion and your purpose of what you do? So we're not going to jump into that in great detail today, but there's a lot of people out there that wake up every day and they're not passionate about what they do. Makes it a lot harder. I love what I do. I get to help people grow. I help companies make more money. I help companies remove roadblocks. So I love that. It makes me feel like I'm actually adding value to the world when I do my job. You know, whereas 15, 16 years ago, I was on 10 airplanes a week, traveling around the country, you know, working for another company, selling some stuff that I wasn't passionate about. Didn't work for me, right? So we want to make sure what we do, there's some passion there. The next step in the process is, what is the need in the marketplace, right? What problems do you solve? How are you guys creating value? So I like to use the analogy of sales professionals and business owners need to understand their clients as good or better than they understand themselves. So if you really want to add value to your clients, you've got to immerse yourself in their world and just be able to live, breathe the issues and the challenges that your clients go through. So how well do you understand your clients' challenges? How well do you know what they do for a living? This one here, how are you going to make your clients better? So Steve, you talked about, you know, developing some specific apps and helping your clients. So how would you answer the question? If I was your prospect and you were trying to sell me your services, I would say to you, Steve, sounds interesting. How are you going to make me better? How would you answer that?
That our company focuses on being really agile and creating a relationship with our customers, so that we work with the customer as they grow, and we're very able to react quickly, and many software companies can't do that.
Okay. That's how you do things, but how do you make your client better? So when your client buys your stuff, how do they become a better business? Are you creating growth for them? Are you creating profits for them? Do you make them more efficient? How do you help them be better as a business?
We improve their efficiency because we build it in such a workflow that saves them time, saves them clicks, that kind of thing.
Okay, so ultimately, you're providing them with better efficiency, which ultimately leads to more profitability, probably happier customers, happier employees as well, right?
Our big sales value, if you will, is the fact that we build it, they own it, without any recurring licensing fees. So we save them money every year.
Yep. Okay. And when we get to the messaging part, we're going to come back to, are you effectively messaging how you make your people better, how you make your clients better? So that's really important. And then what makes you unique and different? So we want to understand what our customers going through, how we make them better, and we want to articulate what makes us different. One of the psychologies of selling is this internal-external problem, and this is a really interesting topic. So I've been working with sales reps pretty much half my life, and when I talk to them, a lot of sales reps, when they present their solution, it's very logical and it's very analytical, but it's not very emotional. So there's a gentleman by the name of Donald Miller. He wrote a very interesting book called Story Branding. And this internal-external problem is, when I talk to a customer and I ask a customer what their challenges are, here's what they typically will say to me. I'm not happy with my sales. I'm not happy with my profit. I'm having challenges with my people, right? So the problems they're having, those are the external problems. The external problem doesn't get customers to spend money. The internal problem is, how is the external problem impacting them? So Nick, if I'm talking to you and you say to me, hey, Barry, I'm really frustrated that I'm not getting enough leads, right? My business is not consistent enough. That's your external problem. So Nick, how do you feel about that? So when you lay there at night and think about not having enough leads and not having consistency, how does that make you feel?
Anxious.
Yeah, anxious. You might say frustrated. That's your internal problem. So when we're out selling, you want to try to understand what your customer's internal problem is. That's the emotional trigger in their brain that's going to get them to take action. Right. So if I'm working with you, Nick, what I would say is, Nick, let's work together. I'm going to help you remove your anxiety. You will no longer feel anxious, and that triggers the brain to take action. So for you guys to have fun with your customers, when you're out talking to your customers or prospects and they tell you what their problem is, just ask them how they feel. And if there's a strong emotional response, you've got them on the hook now. Play off that feeling. That's going to drive a decision. This is a cool little chart from a book called Value Proposition.
Barry, I'm sorry to interrupt. Nikki asks, could internal problems be systematically with teams?
Well, the external problem would be, I'm having a problem with my team. And the internal problem would be, is how does that make you feel? Again, and it could be, I'm frustrated. So the internal is all about the emotional feeling. The external is the actual problem. So if you look at this chart, on the right side, these are your customers. Your customers are trying to accomplish things. Those are their gains. Those are their goals. And your customer has challenges and pain. our job as service providers is to help them achieve their goals, which is the gain creator, or to relieve their pain. So again, if I'm trying to work with Nick, what Nick has already shared with me is one of his gains is he's trying to gain new customers on a consistent basis, new leads on a consistent basis. But I know that the pain he's feeling is anxiety. So when I put together my solution, I want to be able to talk to him in terms of, hey, Nick, let's focus on these areas, help you get some more customers. And this solution is going to help you remove your anxiety. And again, because he told me he's anxious, I've got an emotional connection to Nick. Whereas if all I talked about was getting him more customers, I don't have that emotional connection. The next phase of the journey is, who is the ideal customer? Where do these pains and gains exist? You know, have you done your research? I think Steve, you mentioned you build lists on LinkedIn, correct? Was that you?
Yeah, I've used LinkedIn marketing campaigns.
Yep. So it's very, very important for us to know exactly who our target market is. Prior to this presentation, I was on a call this morning at 7 o'clock with a company that does IT cybersecurity, and it's a minority-owned business. So they're trying to define who their ideal target client is. They're going after diversity contacts within Fortune 500. So they've got a very, very specific target market that they're going to build very specific messaging to. So we want to make sure that we know who our ideal client is. And the question I always ask my clients is, describe the perfect job and situation where you would be chosen 90% of the time. So let's see. So Catherine, for your business, what's the perfect situation for you to sell your services? So if you're sitting in front of a client, what would they say to you for you to feel like, this is perfect for me, I should win this business 90% of the time? What would the prospect say to you in a meeting?
And I agree with you on the emotional piece of it. So it would be, you know, I'm concerned about slow sales growth. I fear my competition. It would be about, I'm concerned about, you know, it's really about driving sales and penetration. In the subset, we're really looking at small to medium-sized companies. Large companies have whole departments, and
Yep.
we're looking, our specialty would be in the kind of personal care, beauty, and healthcare space. So from an
Perfect.
industry standpoint.
Yep. So if you guys can answer the question of describing the perfect job and situation where you're going to win most of the time, what you want to do is you want to translate those answers into questions. You want to get your prospect to answer the questions, telling you the things that make you feel like you could win 90% of the time. So for example, for me, when I deal with a small business owner, I get very focused in on people challenges. So I will ask my clients very specific questions to get them to tell me that they're frustrated with their people. Once they tell me they're frustrated with their people, and then they tell me how they really feel about that, now I feel like I have a high probability to win. So who's the perfect customer? Why? Who's the perfect situation? Why? Where have you been successful in the past? And where do you want to be successful? You know, in your case, Nick, you talked about the financial services market. You know, if you're doing executive coaching in that space, you know, which subsegments of the financial services industry do you want to hit hard? I mean, there's a ton of wealth managers, there's a ton of financial planners, right? So what you really want to do is figure out, you know, where do I want to play? And then I recommend trying to pick a maximum of 3 targets. Never go for one, because if you go for one and it doesn't work, you have nothing. You want to go for a minimum of 2, preferably 3, and kind of test and validate the responsiveness of the market. We might be excited about wealth management, but we might find that, you know, a different type of financial planner might be more prone to using a coach. So any questions on target market? Perfect. So at this point, we know what the problem is. We know what the market opportunity is. We know who we're going after. Now we get into your solution. What does your portfolio of services look like? How are you packaging your capabilities? So Steve, for you with your services, is there a portfolio of offerings that you have, or is everything custom built based on their unique needs?
We have a core set of applications we've written over time, which can be chopped up and customized for the specifics of the specific needs of the customer.
Got it. So like a library of things you've done that you could customize for them?
Yes.
Perfect. And Nick, for you in the coaching business, so if you're sitting down in front of a prospect, what does your portfolio look like? If they're like, hey, Nick, sounds like you could help me, what do you put in front of them for them to buy?
Yeah, so I mean, in my situation, they're buying me and my intellectual capital, but there are also different things that I use, disc profiles that we talk about depending on their, team scenarios, and there's leadership development programs that I can put in front of them, again, depending on exactly who we're dealing with. Those are the programs that I would put in front of them.
Okay, perfect. So one of the things I really recommend, and again, all these things I'm sharing with you here, I've done for myself, is I found as a coach and as a consultant, whenever I got in front of a prospect and I would pitch myself, it was difficult for the prospect to be able to buy anything because I was customizing everything. So what I did was I started to package my services differently, where I have, individual one-on-one coaching package. I've got a group coaching package. I've got workshops based on different topics. So Nick, in your world, if you're thinking about these financial services people, once you understand what their real challenges are, God bless. So say one of their challenges is sales. You could put together a sales workshop. So you want to package your services to make it really easy for people to buy. I recommend you give them at least 3 choices. Nobody likes to be sold anything. We're all uncomfortable when a salesperson is in front of us trying to close us. We hate that feeling. So from a psychology perspective, if I'm in front of if a sales rep's trying to sell me something, there's always a level of resistance. I want to give people 3 choices. And I would say, hey, Steve, based on our conversation, here are 3 programs that I think make sense. What resonates with you? And then let Steve kind of guide me to where he's comfortable. And I always try to present my solutions to have different price points to meet different budgets. So just think about your portfolio, think about how you're packaging it. And then the Trojan horse solution is, what's the one thing you could offer your customer that's very simple to buy, very cost effective to get you in the door? So for Steve, it's going to be a little bit more difficult than it would be for Nick, because you're selling a more robust solution. For you, Nick, you could offer you could say, I got a $150 starter package, real simple, real cost effective. Let's get going. And once you get that $150 package out there, 99% probability you're going to be able to upsell them to more services. Make it simple and easy for people to buy. I have a $100 starter pack that I do. I don't make any money. I get in, and 99% of the time I'm able to take them from $100 to something more. And it's the best use of my time, because for that $100, I get to spend an hour with my client to really deep dive with them. So all of your businesses are different, but I would challenge you to come up with a Trojan horse that makes it easy to buy. Any questions on that? So any questions on packaging, portfolio, solution? Got it. Laura, you'll keep an eye on the chats as they come in? Perfect. All right, so next step is we know who our target market is. We know what their challenges are. We've got a nice portfolio. Now, how do we get their attention? So what are we doing to generate leads? What is our outreach strategy? So these are typical lead sources, and I'm going to guess many of you have tried some of them. So LinkedIn obviously is a great tool. With LinkedIn, you have the ability to target very, very specific people and start sending them messages. Leveraging our professional network is obviously a great source of leads. You know, Lori and I always exchange emails of, you know, hey, do you know this person? Do you know that person? Can you introduce me? So you definitely want to tap into your network. Some trade shows are starting to come back. Obviously, with COVID, it's been a challenge for many businesses. But if there are trade shows for your respective industry, so I know, like for you, Nick, in the one of my clients sells IT to wealth management firms, so I know that space a little bit. They do conferences all the time, right? So if you know, so you want to spend time at a trade show with your target market, building relationships, and potentially even speaking or doing a workshop at a trade show for your target market. Joining a group or an association that's relevant to your target market. Workshops and speaking engagements. Doing things like this, right? I do this all the time. It's fun. I get to add value and help people. And every once in a while I get a lead, right? So going out, doing workshops, speaking about the things that you're passionate about, speaking about the things that can help your customers is an incredible source of leads. The nice thing about Chicago, it's such a huge market. There's so many opportunities to speak. If you know groups and associations that your target market belong to, reach out to them and just say, hey, I'm an expert in the financial services industry. You know, are you looking for speakers? Are you looking for workshops? And start to promote yourself. Email campaigns have been around forever. They work. You know, you're not going to get incredible results, but you might get 2 to 4% response on emails. The trick with email campaigns is, are you really offering anything unique and different and special? Or are you sending out the same thing that 9 million people send out every day? So if you're going to be doing email, you want to really be creative and bold to get people's attention, because I'm sure you all get emails all day long from salespeople. We've got to be very unique there. The dreaded cold calling, it works if you're willing to sit on the phone all day long and make phone calls with a very, very low response rate. So if you're going to do cold calling, the best thing to do is to do it in volume, possibly outsource it, because it's a very challenging thing to do all day. And in today's world, cold calling is basically, it should be called leaving voicemails all day, right? Because nobody answers their phone anymore. And if you do get someone on the phone, that's great. But I've done days where I'll do 200 calls and I'll leave 198 voicemails. It's not a lot of fun. But if you're making thousands of calls with a service, that will generate leads. Customer referrals. And it doesn't have to be existing customers. These could be customers you had from your past life, right? Get back in touch with people. More traditional website, SEO, PPC, these all work. Depending on what you do for your business, you know, you might have partners that you work with that could potentially give you some leads. So what I recommend is, you know, try 3 to 5 different things. See what works. There's no guarantee that one thing's going to work, but if you try 3 to 5 different things, you'll find that something will start to resonate for your business. So after we do the outreach, what's going to happen is now you're going to start to engage with your prospects. This is the pitch. What are you going to say to them? What questions are you going to ask them? What stories are you going to tell them? So these are different scenarios for giving your pitch. You might be at a networking event. So let's have a little bit of fun here with the pitch. So so Catherine, if I meet you at a networking event and I say, hey, Catherine, what do you do for a living? How would you answer that?
I'd answered how I answered it before. Actually, what I would say is, I say we help small to medium-sized companies grow their business by really maximizing white space.
Okay. Nick, how do you answer that?
Sorry, was on mute. Yeah, I would answer it with, look, I specialize in helping people reach their personal performance high points, which translates for their business or other aspects of their life. That's what I'm passionate about, and that's what we work together to accomplish.
Okay, good.
Being great is all about.
Steve?
We help people make the decision as to whether they should buy or have constructed software to meet their operational needs.
Okay. I think, did Kevin just joined? Kevin, so real quick, what do you do? If you're speaking, you've got mute on. Okay, so we'll keep going. So yeah, so when you introduce yourself to people, you want to just think about that emotional thing again, right? You want to try to hit that nerve.
Aaron, let me just share. Nikki says she helps internal systems create cohesive unit to increase sales and processes.
Okay. So again, try to focus on that emotional issue that your prospect is dealing with. Try to avoid, I'm just going to use the expression, try to avoid sounding like everybody else that uses the same big words and academic response, right? So if people talk about, I help you grow, I help you become more productive, we want to create a message that elicits an emotional response to the prospect. And I like what you said too, Nick, because there was some passion in the way you responded. Like I felt like, like you really enjoy this and you believe in this. For me, my response is, I've got the greatest job in the world. Every day I wake up, I get to help individuals and companies reach their full potential. And then I pause. I didn't tell them what I do. And then they usually lean in and they're like, oh, that sounds interesting. Tell me more. So start to think about presenting yourself in a way to get the customer, the prospect, to kind of lean in and to really be intrigued to want to know more. If I introduce myself as a coach or a consultant at a networking event, the person wants to turn around and run away from me. They're like, oh boy, here we go, another sales guy. So I have to really get them emotionally connected to what I do. So the purpose of this slide is really to get you thinking about, if you're at a networking event, you've got 30 to 45 seconds to tell your little story. If you're having breakfast or lunch or dinner and you've got time, your message is going to be totally different because you have more time with the person. If you're leaving a voicemail, you've got to really come up with a creative voicemail to get people to just listen and want to reach out to you. So you've got to be professionally edgy, right? You want to kind of push the envelope a little bit because most people sound the same. So come up with something really unique. Same thing with email, same thing with LinkedIn. So when I'm working with clients and we're doing these workshops, we're literally building messaging across all these different scenarios. The purpose is not to sound like a robot or be a script, but the purpose is to make sure that you're hitting some of the key emotional talking points. So the goal here is to create and prepare your messaging for every possible sales scenario and communication method.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So I think I fell into category A that you were talking about. Would a better approach for me to be to say, we help clients eliminate the frustration or bottlenecks in their day-to-day operations? Is that a little more tugging at the emotional content?
Yeah, you're getting closer, Steve. I would add to that, we help customers eliminate the frustration caused by bottlenecks. Right. So you want to kind of find it's think of adjectives that you could throw into your pitch that elicits, like, then you could say to the customer, hey, let's talk about, what bottlenecks do you have and how does it make you feel?
Got it. Thanks.
And I also think, Steve, you probably want to spin into there somehow the benefit of what you do is, we help customers. I'm just making this up. We help customers eliminate the frustration of bottlenecks, which ultimately results in productivity and more profit.
Okay.
Because the reason why people hire you, it's not to eliminate the bottleneck, it's the benefit of the bottleneck being eliminated, which is the business is better. Okay.
Thanks.
Yep. Any other questions? All right, let me keep moving here. So when we build our pitch, and when I go through this workshop with people, this is kind of what I go through is say, okay, we're going to come up with a long and short version. Let's think of good questions to ask. So again, you want to ask questions that get you to the pain that the customer is feeling. We don't want to ask, unnecessary questions that get them talking about things that are not bringing us to the pain. Good example I'll give you is I love when sales reps call me up and they'll say, what keeps you up at night? Which I think is the worst question to ask me. So if somebody asks me what keeps you up at night, what I'll say is my puppy. And it doesn't, and then it puts them in a really uncomfortable position because it kind of aggravated me that they're wasting my time. Ask me questions that's relevant to me. Like they could say, as a sales coach, talk to me in a language that I understand, right? So I would challenge each of you is to go back and think about 3 great questions you could ask your prospects that get you closer to the pain. And think of yourself as a prosecutor cross-examining the witness, trying to get them to admit that they're guilty. Your job as the sales professional is to cross-examine your prospect to get them to admit that they have pain. Once they admit that they have pain, you've got them on the hook now. Now you've got them emotionally attached. So then we go, through, this is actually fun for me, not fun for the members, is I make everybody go through the pitch with me and I make everybody extremely uncomfortable, which is my goal, because this is what you guys have to do in the real world every day is pitch, pitch, pitch. So the more you practice your pitch, the better you get. Obviously, we don't have time to do that today. So now we go to the next step in the process. We know who our customers are. We know what their pain is. We know where to find them. We know what our messaging is. Now we got to put together a plan. So what are you going to do? So like in the case of Nick, I would say, Nick, there's probably 2 focuses here. One would be, how do we get more business from your existing clients, right? Keep them buying, keep them growing. And the second would be is how do we get net new customers? So we build out 2 strategies. Strategy 1 would be new business. Second would be how do we farm our existing accounts? I like to add this third one as a strategy. Most people don't do this. I've done this my whole career and it's helped me because I don't do any marketing. I've never done any marketing. All of my business comes from referrals. And I've spent literally 15 years adding value to my network. So when you think about your professional network, all the people you're connected to, the close people you know, what are you doing to help them? So when I wake up in the morning, obviously I want new business, I want new clients, but I also want to help my network. So when I go out of my way to help Lori, or Lori goes out of her way to help me, that helps me professionally. So when I make an introduction to Lori, there's a good probability that an introduction will come back to me at some point from Lori or from someone else in my network. So when I build out a sales plan, there's 3 components: new business, growing your existing accounts, adding value to your network. And then what we want to do is we want to identify the daily, weekly tasks to achieve this. And this is where I literally sit down with my clients and we put together a plan on. So let's assume, Nick, you're my client, and we're going to figure out how do we get net new customers. So step number 1 is going to be, let's build a list of your target market, right? We got to build a list. Let's go identify 500 people in Chicago that match your target market. That's first task. The second task would be, let's create some messaging that we're going to send out to these 500 people. The third task would be, let's reach out to them via email or LinkedIn, send out this message. And out of 500 contacts, our goal would be, we want to get 25 new conversations with our target market, right? That would be one example. For your existing customers, it could be, let's schedule a call with our existing clients and introduce a new service, And again, Nick, if you package your coaching, like sales coaching or marketing coaching, and more from a vertical perspective, you could then maybe go to your clients and say, hey, here's the pain that a lot of people are feeling. I've created 3 different workshops for you. Would you like to sign up for a workshop? So that would be an example. So once you create your tasks, then the next step is to put the work on your calendar. And this is where everybody fails miserably, right? I've seen so many great sales plans that sit on the shelf, and then I'll say to the customer, show me your calendar. And they'll pull up their calendar, and I'll say, where are the tasks? Like all these things you say you're going to do, when are you going to do them? So I'm a big believer of put your tasks on your calendar. So in the case of Nick, he would schedule a Tuesday afternoon, build my list. So all of the components of sales are activities. The activities should be put on the calendar for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, you're probably going to do them if you're on your calendar. Reason number 2 is if you get busy and you don't do them, the guilty conscience is going to kick in because you're going to finish your day and you're going to say, oh, crap, I didn't do these 3 things today. And then you just drag those calendar entries to the future. So when I'm working with my clients and I'm doing the coaching, literally, I ask them to pull up the calendar. It's always empty. Then we start to do this. And then in future meetings, it's kind of fun to see how people are starting to schedule these activities proactively on their calendar. So any questions on that? Okay. So now we've got the plan in place. We're actually executing the plan. I do the plan on a quarterly basis. So I don't believe an annual plan makes sense. The world is moving too fast. Things change too rapidly. So when I do my quarterly sales plans, it's a 90-day plan. And then every 90 days, I refresh the plan. So what I try to do is I try to build some metrics into my plan to measure if it's working or not. So I'm a big believer of data. Data eliminates the emotion. And then for each of your businesses, it's going to be a little bit different depending on what we're trying to measure. But these are some examples of some KPIs. How many sales did I make? How big is my pipeline? How many leads did I get? How many conversions did I make? So come up with 3 to 5 metrics that make sense for your business and then track it. Every week, every month, we track our metrics to see what's working, what's not working. We build a little dashboard of metrics. And then the last step of the methodology is accountability, which is doing the work. So, I'm a coach, Nick is a coach. We know a lot of our job is to hold people accountable. But for yourselves as business owners, make sure you're holding yourself accountable to do the work. So some of you are discipline oriented, some of you are not. Some of you need coaches and mentors, support group. What's great about groups like Lori's is you get to participate with other people on a regular basis, and there's a lot of accountability. The last thing you want to do is show up at a meeting and not be prepared and look silly. So the work is only as good as our ability to hold ourselves accountable to complete it. Recapping what we covered, and I wanted to leave some time for some Q&A. Everything begins with the purpose. If you're not aligned to what you do every day, then you're not going to enjoy being a business owner, because you should love what you do and be passionate about what you do. We want to make sure we understand what's going on in the marketplace. What's the need? What's the pain? What are people trying to accomplish? Who's the perfect customer? Who matches that need? Who matches that pain? Think out of the box too. There's a lot of industries that are evolving, right? There's new industries that are coming up. I know in my little world, I've got a lot of clients right now that have spent a lot of time attacking the cannabis industry. It's relatively new, it's growing. There's lots of challenges and issues there. A lot of people are attacking the crypto industry now because there's tons of money being spent, lots of challenges. Just keep paying attention to what the market is telling you. Make sure you have solutions that address those problems. Again, Trojan horse has worked for me for many years. It's a simple way to get in the door. We now have to get the attention of the people. So marketing attention, LinkedIn attention, branding, website. Engagement is all about messaging, saying the right things, bringing out the emotion, pulling this all together into a plan, measuring our progress, and holding ourselves accountable. So this is kind of, just a rapid fire overview of the methodology. And then again, when I do these workshops with these clients, we literally create the sales plan. We then go and execute the plan. We review it at the end of the quarter, make the necessary adjustments. So every 90 days, we're going to tweak the plan based on what results you get from your efforts. I've never seen a client that's not made a change to a plan after 90 days. What we learn is, email didn't work really well. Let's change this. This target market was not as responsive as I thought. So it's kind of like, if I give a sports analogy, it's like, halftime of the football game, we're going to make changes to what we learned in the first half so we could be successful in the second half. Just keep iterating. So I think that's everything. I'll kind of leave this slide up. I went through this relatively quickly, but what I wanted to do was just leave some time. Since we've got a small group, we could do some Q&A so I can answer any and all questions that you have, because we've got we've only got a few minutes. So I could stay on for a few minutes after 9 o'clock. So Steve, we'll start with you. Comments, feedback on what we covered, any specific questions?
I don't have any specific